Two households, same suburb, same school district, same commute. Both of them earn under $50,000 a year. The first household has a leased SUV in the driveway and a second car financed at 7%. Their mortgage payment is $3,400. Their kids are in travel soccer. There are 4 streaming subscriptions, a meal kit, a gym membership nobody has used since February, and a storage unit holding furniture from a house they sold 3 years ago. Their checking account at the end of the month sits somewhere between $200 and $900. They have $11,000 in a 401k that they stopped contributing to when the car payment started. If one paycheck failed to arrive, they would be borrowing money inside of 11 days. The second household earns the same $150,000. Their mortgage payment is $1,950. They drive 2 paid-off cars, one of them 11 years old. They max one retirement account and half of another. They have $46,000 sitting in cash. They take one real vacation a year, and they do not think about the price of groceries. If both paychecks stopped tomorrow, they would be fine for 9 months. Same income, same country, same tax bracket. One of these households feels rich. The other one feels like it is drowning, and it cannot understand why, because the number on the offer letter said $150,000 and $150,000 was supposed to be enough. Here is the part that unsettles people. The first household is not reckless. Nobody is gambling. Nobody has a secret addiction. Every single decision they made was reasonable at the moment they made it. The house was in the good district. The car was safe. The soccer was for the kids. The subscriptions were $9. They did not fall into a hole. They built one defensible decision at a time. This is what people mean when they say the middle-class trap, and it is the strangest financial condition in America, because it does not look like poverty and it does not feel like wealth. It feels like running, constantly, on an income that, in almost any other decade or any other country, would have been the end of financial worry entirely. Today I am going to walk you through exactly how a 6-figure income turns into a paycheck-to-paycheck life. Not the moral version, the mechanical version. 7 forces, each one measurable, each one working on you right now whether you have noticed it or not. And before the list, you need one idea, because it explains all 7 at once. Income does not make you secure, conversion does. Every dollar that enters your life gets converted into one of 2 things. It becomes an asset which pays you later, or it becomes an obligation which bills you later. That is the entire game. A household is not wealthy because of what flows in. A household is wealthy because of what percentage of the inflow gets converted into things that pay rather than things that charge. And here is the cruel mechanic. Obligations are easier to buy than assets. An obligation requires a signature and a down payment. An asset requires a decision you have to make again every single month with nothing in return for years. So the default direction of money, in the absence of deliberate resistance, is toward obligation. Always. Which means the trap is not a personal failure. It is a current, and $150,000 a year just means you are swimming in a wider river. Let me show you how the current works. The first force is the one almost nobody accounts for correctly. You do not actually earn $150,000. Run the number honestly. A married couple filing jointly in a state with income tax, both working, is going to lose somewhere between 22% and 30% of gross to federal tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare. Call it 26%. That is $39,000 gone before the money ever exists to you. You are now at $111,000. Now subtract the things that come out before the deposit hits. Health insurance for a family through an employer plan averages roughly $6,500 a year in employee contributions. Dental and vision, another $800. A 401k contribution at even 6% is $9,000. Life insurance, disability, and FSA. Call the whole pre-tax stack $17,000. You are at $94,000. That is $7,800 a month landing in the account, not $12,500. The number in your head is $12,500. The number in your bank is $7,800. That gap, that $4,700 a month you never see, is the first crack. And it is psychological before it is financial, because you budget against the number you were told, not the number you receive. Every lifestyle decision you make is anchored to a figure that does not exist. You feel like you should be able to afford a $3,400 mortgage, because $3,400 against $12,500 is 27%, and 27% is responsible. Against $7,800, it is 44%. You did not overspend. You measured against the wrong ruler. Run the same math on the household that feels rich, and you find the difference is not that they earn more. It is that they made their large decisions against $7,800 instead of against $12,500. And that single act of measuring correctly is worth more than a decade of budgeting discipline, and it takes one afternoon, and it gets sharper. At $150,000, you have also crossed out of nearly every form of assistance in the country. No subsidized childcare, no health insurance subsidy, no tuition aid worth naming. reduced or zero eligibility for a long list of credits and deductions that quietly evaporate as income rises. You earn too much to be helped and not enough to be insulated. You are in the exact center of the income distribution where the system stops catching you and has not yet started rewarding you. Below you, there is a floor. Above you, there is capital. You are standing on the one part of the ladder that has neither. The second force is speed, specifically how fast a raise disappears. Economists have a clinical name for it, lifestyle inflation. But that phrase makes it sound gradual, like a slow drift, and it is not, it is fast. Surveys of workers who receive a meaningful raise consistently find that the majority report no improvement in their savings rate within 1 year. The money arrived, and then it was simply gone, absorbed into a life that expanded to meet it. Here is why it happens so quickly. A raise does not get spent on one thing, it gets spent on a category. You get $12,000 more per year. After tax, that is roughly $700 a month. You do not go buy a $700 item. You upgrade the grocery store. You stop looking at the right side of the menu. You start saying yes to the weekend trip. You add the second streaming service and the better phone plan and the lawn service because you are tired and you can afford it now. None of those decisions is wrong. Each one is small. Together they consume the entire raise inside of 90 days, and the critical detail is this. Almost none of it is reversible without it feeling like loss. That is the mechanism. Upgrades become baselines. A baseline is not a luxury anymore. It is just how you live, and cutting it does not feel like saving money. It feels like moving backwards. Human beings will accept never having something far more easily than they will accept losing something they already have. So every raise ratchets. It goes up and it does not come down. And the household earning $150,000 today has all the fixed costs it accumulated at $95,000, plus everything it added on the way up. Watch it across a decade. At 28, you earn $70,000 and you feel poor. At 33, you earn $100,000 and you feel exactly the same, except now you have a mortgage. At 40, you earn $150,000 and you feel worse because now there are children, 2 cars, and a house that requires a new roof. Your income doubled. Your sense of security went down. Ask anyone who has crossed several income levels, and they will tell you the same thing. There was never a moment where the money felt like enough, because the target moves at the same speed you do, and it moves automatically, and nobody ever tells you that resisting it is the actual job. The third force is the one that actually kills you, and it is not spending. It is the composition of your spending. There are 2 kinds of expenses, flexible and fixed. Flexible spending is restaurants, clothes, entertainment, gifts. Fixed spending is your mortgage, your car payments, your insurance premiums, your daycare, your student loans, your phone contract, your HOA. Almost every piece of financial advice you have ever received targets the flexible category. Skip the coffee, cook at home, cancel the subscriptions. And that advice is not wrong, it is just aimed at the wrong target. Because flexible spending is rarely what breaks a household. Fixed costs break households. Here is the difference in one sentence. A flexible expense is a decision you make. A fixed expense is a decision you already made that keeps executing itself every month without asking you again. And fixed costs have a property that flexible costs do not. They do not care what happened to you. Lose your job on a Tuesday and your restaurant spending drops to 0 on Wednesday. Your mortgage does not move. Your car payment does not move. Your daycare does not move. Your insurance does not move. So the real number that determines whether a household is fragile or safe is not income, and it is not even savings rate. It is the percentage of take-home pay that is spoken for before the month begins. Under 50% and you are resilient. You can absorb a shock, a layoff, a medical event, a bad quarter. Over 70% and you are running a business with no margin. Any disruption goes straight through to insolvency. The $150,000 household that feels broke is almost always sitting somewhere between 75% and 85%. And here's the poisonous part. They cannot see it because the ratio is invisible. It never appears on a statement. There is no alert for it. You only discover your fixed cost ratio the month you actually need flexibility and find out you have none. And notice what this does to your options. A household at 45% can turn down a bad promotion, wait out a hiring freeze, take an 8-week gap between jobs, or say no to a manager who is destroying them. A household at 80% cannot do any of those things. Every choice that requires money to also be a choice about time has already been made for them. So the fixed cost ratio is not really a financial statistic. It is a measure of how much of your own life you are still allowed to decide. The fourth force is what happens when both incomes become load-bearing. A dual-income household looks like security. 2 salaries, 2 employers, 2 industries, diversified in theory. In practice, the second income does not usually create a buffer. It gets consumed by the infrastructure required to produce it, run it. The second earner brings home $60,000 gross. Full-time childcare for 2 children in a metro area runs $22,000 to $30,000 a year. A second vehicle, with payment, insurance, fuel, and maintenance, is $8,000. Commuting, parking, work clothing, and the meals you buy because nobody has time to cook is another $6,000. Higher household spending on convenience because time is now the scarce resource is easily $5,000. That second income of $60,000 gross is maybe $44,000 net, and it just paid out $41,000 to exist. But here is the thing that makes it a trap rather than just a bad trade. The family has now built its fixed costs around the combined figure. The mortgage was approved on both incomes. The school district was chosen on both incomes, so the second income produces almost no financial margin and simultaneously becomes completely non-negotiable. It cannot be paused. It cannot be reduced. One person cannot take a lower-paying job they would be better at, cannot go back to school, cannot take 6 months to recover from something. The household is not twice as safe. It has 2 single points of failure instead of 1. And the strain compounds in a way spreadsheets do not capture. 2 full-time careers plus children means nobody has spare capacity. No spare capacity means every problem gets solved with money, because money is the only resource left. The dishwasher breaks and you replace it rather than repair it. Dinner gets ordered. The trip gets booked at the last minute at twice the price. Exhaustion is expensive, and the second income often paying for the exhaustion it created. The fifth force is respectable debt. Everybody knows credit card debt is dangerous. Nobody argues about that. But credit card debt is not what is quietly draining the middle class, because most $150,000 households do not carry large revolving balances. What they carry is debt that nobody criticizes. A car loan at 7% over 72 months. A perfectly normal thing. 2 of them, and you are paying $1,300 a month for a depreciating asset, and at month 40, you owe more than the vehicle is worth. Student loans. $65,000 across 2 adults, $700 a month, and the payment does not respond to your circumstances. A HELOC taken out for kitchen renovation because the equity was sitting there doing nothing and the rate was reasonable at the time. 0% financing on the appliances, the mattress, the phones, the furniture. Each one is a small, sensible, interest-free arrangement. Stack 6 of them and you have $500 a month of obligation you would struggle to name from memory. And a mortgage size to what you were approved for rather than what you should have borrowed because the lender said yes and the number felt like permission. None of this is irresponsible. All of it is respectable, and collectively it can easily consume $5,000 a month of a $700-800 take-home, which means you are not building a life. You are servicing decisions your past self made on behalf of a future self who has no vote. That is what debt actually is. It is a transfer of money from your future to your past, and the middle-class trap is what happens when the transfer becomes so large that the present has nothing left to work with. There is one more layer to it. Every one of those obligations was approved based on your income at the moment you signed. Lenders do not underwrite your future, they underwrite your best month. So the entire structure of your debt quietly assumes that nothing in your life will ever get worse, and you agreed to that assumption without ever being asked the question directly. The sixth force is geography, and it is the most brutal because it is the least discussed. $150,000 is not one income. It is a different income in every metropolitan area in the country, and the spread is enormous. In a low-cost metro, $150,000 buys a 4-bedroom house for $310,000, a mortgage under $2,000, childcare at $900 a month, and a life with genuine surplus. In a high-cost metro, the same $150,000 buys a $900,000 townhouse with a $1,400 payment, childcare at $2,400 a month, state income tax of 9%, and property tax that alone exceeds what the other family pays in principal. Same income. The purchasing power difference is not 20%, it is closer to a factor of 2, and here is why it is a trap rather than just an expensive choice. The high-cost location is usually where the $150,000 job exists. You did not choose the expense and then find the income. The income required the expense. The salary is bait attached to a cost structure, and the cost structure grows faster than the salary does, because housing in high-demand markets rises faster than wages in nearly every year on record. So you can work harder, get promoted, earn more, and end up with less real security than when you started, because the ground moved further than you did. And once you are inside that cost structure, leaving it is not simple. Your employer is there, your professional network is there, your children's school is there, your spouse's career is there. The exit exists on a spreadsheet and almost nowhere else, which is exactly why people stay for a decade in a city that is quietly eating the difference between their income and their life. The seventh force is the deepest one, and it is the reason the first 6 matter at all. You own nothing that works. Think about where your money actually is. It is in a house you live in which produces no income and costs you 1% to 2% of its value every year in taxes, insurance, and maintenance. It is in vehicles that lose value on a schedule. It is in furniture, electronics, clothing, and equipment, all of which are worth a fraction of what you paid within 18 months. And it is in your job, which is not an asset. It is a contract that another party can terminate. 100% of your income comes from selling hours. Every dollar you have requires you to show up again next week to produce the next one. Stop showing up and the income stops instantly, while the obligations continue at full speed. That is the actual definition of the trap. Not low income, not overspending. A household where every dollar comes from labor and every dollar goes to obligation, with no ownership in between. The household that feels rich on the same $150,000 is not smarter and not more disciplined by nature. They simply have a slice of income that arrives whether or not they get out of bed. Dividends. Index funds, retirement accounts that compound quietly, maybe rent from something. It might only be $400 a month at first, and $400 a month does not change their lifestyle at all. But it changes their psychology completely, because for the first time, a portion of their life is funded by something that is not them, and that portion grows in a way your salary never will. Your salary increases when someone approves it. An owned asset increases while you sleep, while you are sick, while you are between jobs, and it does not require anyone's permission. That is the difference between earning and owning, and almost nobody explains it in those terms, because the entire consumer economy is built around keeping you on the earning side of it. And that is the line. Not six figures, not the house, not the title, ownership. So where does this leave you? Notice what every one of those 7 forces had in common. Not one of them was about willpower. Not one of them required you to be undisciplined, wasteful, or foolish. Every single one is structural. They operate on smart, hardworking, careful people, and they operate hardest on the people who did everything they were told to do. Go to school, get the good job, buy this house in the district, take the promotion, move where the work is. That advice was written for an economy where the good job outran the cost of living. It does not anymore. The instructions are still being handed out, and the machine underneath them has changed, which means the escape is also structural, and it is smaller than you think. Start with the ratio. Add up every payment that leaves your account whether or not you get out of bed, mortgage or rent, cars, insurance, childcare, loans, subscriptions. Divide by your actual take-home, the deposited number, not the offer letter number. That percentage is the single most important figure in your financial life, and most people have never once calculated it. If it is over 70%, your problem is not coffee. Your problem is 1 or 2 large fixed costs, and no amount of small discipline will fix it. Only a structural change will. A cheaper house, a sold car, a different zip code. One large decision beats 200 small ones. Then break the ratchet. The next raise you receive, the next bonus, the next time a car loan finally ends, do not let the money find its own home. It will always find an obligation. Direct it in the first week into something that pays you back. Not because $400 a month will make you rich, because it converts you from someone who only sells hours into someone who also owns something. And be honest about the largest line. For almost every trapped household in America, the answer is the house or the cars, and everyone knows it, and nobody wants to say it out loud, because those two things carry more identity than any other purchase a person makes. But identity is not shelter, and it is not transportation. It is a story you are paying rent on every month, and you are allowed to stop paying it. And then stop measuring yourself with the wrong instrument. The number you earn tells you almost nothing about whether you are going to be okay. The number that matters is how many months you could survive without earning anything at all. The household in that second driveway does not have a secret. They are not paid more. They just converted a slightly larger fraction of the same income into things that pay them and refused, over and over, in 100 small, unremarkable moments, to convert it into things that bill them. That is the whole difference. And it is available at $50,000, at $95,000, and at $52,000. Run your ratio this week. Whatever the number is, you will not be able to unsee it, and that is exactly the point. It was never the income.